Greetings from Southern Yankee Homestead. I'm Paul, and this is our homestead. I've been filming some stuff behind the scenes on this video, and originally I was going to do American Muscle versus Kei Truck, but that sounded more like clickbait to me, and wasn't exactly true. Before I get into this video on why I think the Kei Truck is actually a better vehicle all around than American Muscle, I want to put a little disclaimer out there. Yes, we're using a Ram. If your brand of choice is GM or Ford, that's fine. This will apply to them as well. This is what we have because we have had very bad luck with both GM and Ford. We've had very good luck with Chrysler, contrary to a lot of people. So, and I know it's going to happen. There's going to be a comment down below, you should have bought XYZ vehicle, not Ram, whatever. This isn't about Ram. I guarantee if you spec this out the same in Ford or Chevy, you're going to have issues regardless. You're going to have prices that are comparably the same. You're going to have capabilities that are comparably the same. And the real difference is the little placard on the front. That's it. The Kei Truck, on the other hand, is going to be very similar. Similar specs, similar prices, similar capabilities. The big difference is reliability and cost of ownership. So to start out, this is a 2019 Ram 3500 long bed quad cab 4x4 diesel dually. It's a big truck. It weighs over 8,000 pounds. That's why we have to have truck tags on it. It's expensive. In 2019, we paid $62,000 out the door. This same truck a couple months ago up at the dealership was in excess of 85 grand. 3 years after we bought it, when I bought my Jeep back there, I was offered sight unseen $72,000 for it as a trade-in, which boggles my mind. This is paid off. We're not getting rid of it, plain and simple. On the other side, we have this 1997 Daihatsu Hi-Jet. Obviously, we bought this used about a year ago. Year and a half, maybe two. You lose track of time. It happens. This is, in retrospect to the other vehicle, bare bones. This is also $10,500 because it has a hard bed, air conditioning, and four-wheel drive, and a 5-speed manual. That's pretty much all it has. It's got manual windows, it has manual steering, has heat. I had to add a radio because the Japanese radio doesn't work on American frequencies. And yeah, nothing fancy. It has a manual slide seat on it. But this is much more of a truck than this. Why do I say that? This is a luxury vehicle. 90% of what is on here has nothing to do with anything important. It's emissions, electronics, and styling. That's it. Where this does shine is here. This, fully loaded, is a cruiser RV Striker 2916 toy hauler. She's 20 feet shorter than a semi-trailer, and she's just as tall and just as wide as a semi-trailer. Yes, I'm as wide as the cement mixer and most semis on the road, and only slightly more maneuverable. Rolling down the road, we're in the neighborhood of 22,000 pounds just between the truck and the camper and whatever we're hauling. This is also what we do with it. We have a dump trailer and we have a 18-foot landscape trailer. Recently, I drove the truck up to Maine, towing that with the tractor and a couple implements for our other homestead that you may or may not have heard about yet. If you haven't, you're not following us on Facebook, and, well, the video's coming. We're just getting around to it when we get around to it. Where am I going to park? Now, as far as efficiency goes, this is probably one of the least efficient vehicles you can get. Because we just drove up to Lowe's and Tractor Supply for a 21/64 drill bit that I need for the excavator project. Efficiency-wise, this is not efficient. Functionality-wise, it's not very functional for most day-to-day tasks. Parking-wise, it's not very functional, so why do we have it? Well, occasionally we have to tow something big and heavy. We have a big and heavy camper. We like off-roading, so we need a truck that can tow stuff. Most of the time, yes, we could get away with a half-ton. Something like a F-150 or a 1500, either Ram or Chevy, Toyota Tundra, Nissan Titan, all those would fit the bill. But with the prices on trucks nowadays, we're not going to be able to get into one of those for less than we paid for this truck new. But ultimately, we took it out today because it needed an exercise. We hadn't ran it in a week or two. So keep all the fluids functioning, take it out for a drive. Occasionally, if I'm going to pick up stuff at the auction 2.5 hours away, I'll take this. Hope you can see that. Mileage wise, we're getting about 15.3. Realistically, based on past experiences, that gauge is probably off by a little bit. We're probably getting somewhere close to 14.8 to 15 miles per gallon. Best I've ever seen in this truck is 19, almost 19. I think I got 18.8 one time on a long trip up to Maine. The worst I've seen was towing the camper through the mountains heading south. It was 7.5, 8 miles per gallon. One of the hindrances to the functionality of this truck is demonstrated here. I am 6 feet tall, standing beside the tire, and I can maybe go a foot in. If I'm back here, it's even worse. This kills any functionality of the bed. So our manufacturer is making these trucks so that they're more functional? No, they're adding gimmicks to get you into it with funky tailgates like barn doors and little cutouts and all kinds of funky stuff instead of an actual tailgate. Some other stuff in there, don't worry about that. So this is where this little putt-putt really shows its colors. In the back, I've got 9 bags of feed. Got a 6-layer, 2 swine, and 1 sunflower seed. It's easy to load, easy to unload. Everyone absolutely loves this truck just for that simple truth. It's also a lot more appropriate than a 1-ton dually, or even a modern Ford Maverick for that matter, because you don't have the cost associated. I got background noise. Now this little putt-putt is loud. She's underpowered, relatively speaking, compared to modern vehicles. Doesn't have any frills. Well, it's got air conditioning. Is that considered a frill? But this is also where it shines. The little 5-speed automatic does great getting it up to speed. It doesn't get up to speed quickly, mind you, but it gets up there. I've had it on the interstate. It'll do 60, 65 miles an hour. Usually run around 62 and a half. but for little things like I just did here, this works perfectly fine. It's a good runabout. Sips fuel. Best tank I've ever got was almost 28 miles per gallon. And this is heavy, mind you. Running down the road, this thing weighs 2,200 pounds with me in it, which is about 350 kilograms or 700 pounds more than a stock regular bed. Let's see, we're at 45 through here, going to 55. We're in 5th gear, so she's going to take a minute to get up to speed. There is 50. Just going to say that it takes, you know, if a Tesla can do 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, this does 0 to 60 in about 2.3 miles. The other thing, and I don't know why, but this vehicle is more fun to drive than our big truck. It's almost like you're connected to the road more, and I don't know how to explain it. I enjoy driving this more than our 1-ton. It's nimble, it's agile, it's efficient, it's function over fashion. And it's affordable. Now while I unload this, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Kei trucks are not street legal in all states. In fact, I didn't even know if it was state or street legal in this state that we're in until after we bought them, because I couldn't find any laws against it, but I couldn't find any laws for it either. So we bought this going into it, not knowing whether or not we'd be able to actually drive that on the road. But it's still useful even if we couldn't do that. It's just more useful that we can. So that being said, how useful is this Kei truck? For reference, that's a face cord of wood. Extremely. We put somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 kilometers on it, and a little over we had it over a year? Yeah, about a year and a half or so. 10,000 kilometers doesn't sound like a lot, especially when you consider it's, what, less than 5,000 miles? 5,500 miles approximately. But you got to understand, all of that is from here into town, from here into another town, back and forth. That's all effectively city and local driving. We're not going to be driving this thing to California, although I'd love to get one and do that just to say that I've done it, you know, coast to coast in a Kei truck. That'd be kind of cool. Stay with me. Now, the other elephant in the room is the states that these Kei trucks are not legal, they're using the safety defense against them by saying they're not safe. One state I know of claim these are not safe, but they don't have a helmet law for motorcycles. Just saying. I do realize, in the event of an accident, my survivability in this is not very good, especially at speeds. The upside is, this doesn't go that fast. So your biggest worry is other drivers. It's very difficult to overdrive a Kei Truck, where most modern vehicles, it's very easy to overdrive it. These people are getting dumb behind the wheel. Now the other argument that can be had for or against a Kei Truck, people say it is a glorified side-by-side. Well, going along with that, we had a side-by-side before we bought this Kei Truck. We actually sold our side-by-side so that we could buy this Kei Truck. We had a Can-Am Commander, which is a little bit more utilitarian than, you know, your Mavericks and your Razors and whatever the Yamaha and Kawasaki have. It was not quite a mule, but it wasn't quite a Maverick R either. Plenty of power, little dump bed, worked great for hunting, but for homesteading, it would tear up the lawn. It didn't really carry stuff well. It didn't dump stuff well. It rode okay. It was a little rough. It was actually kind of rode like this now that I think about it. And it was expensive. That was a 2012 model. I ended up selling it, and I think I had to put about $2,000 more cash out of that to get into this. Yeah. Basically, I sold the side-by-side for a little over $8,000. So as far as a glorified side-by-side, this really isn't a glorified side-by-side. It is much more functional and utilitarian. I couldn't load the side-by-side with the tractor. I couldn't pull as well as I can pull with this. This is a manual transmission. The side-by-sides are all CVTs. From my understanding, Honda would be the exception. They have a manual, but I think it's still a manual CVT. Correct me in the comments down below if I'm wrong. But if you've ever tried to pull anything with a CVT transmission, getting it going sucks royally. So this is not made for towing. I built a hitch and put it on here. But for spotting trailers, not that trailer, but our other trailers, this works great for it. Even the big 18-foot trailer we have. This cinder block represents two things that this truck excels at. One, even with the bed sides up, I can put something in there very easy, and I can reach the other side of the bed. This one I'm not even going to try because I have to lift this cinder block up to my face just to get it in there. Even with the tailgate down, if I didn't have stuff in the bed, that's going to get tiring real quick, having to lift it up, pick it up, pull it down. Anyways. Now the second part to that is, if I don't quite get it right, I don't care. We paid $10,500, which is a lot of money, but it's 1/6 the cost of the big red monster over there. And it's a farm truck. It's going to get scratched, it's going to get dented, it's going to get dinged. That's just the nature of the beast. So it's a lot easier and a lot more rugged. These bed rails are formed. This is pretty stout steel. Those bed rails are stamped. How thin that is? this folded over portion here, actually everything combined here is more, or is less than this steel here. This is a lot more durable. I'm not even going to try to put the cinder block over the end of the bed because I'm not trying to mess the fender up again. It happened once before. We took it into New York City, say the least. We ended up having to have the other fender replaced on the other side, and the bumper after a trailer accident that I had. Forgot to couple it, loaded it, whoop, into the bed. Now, as far as engines go, this has a 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel in it. It's the low rated one. It's 850 foot-pounds of torque. I think it's somewhere around 350 horsepower-ish. This has a 663 cylinder motor. What that equivocates to is 0.66 liter, or actually I think it's like a 0.657 liter motor. So this motor here, all three cylinders, is a little over half of one cylinder on this. This is rated about 40 horsepower, and I don't even know what kind of torque it has. This motor is actually smaller than the motor we have on our riding mower. Box store Husqvarna YTH 22V46. 724 cc V-twin. 724 V-twin. That means that those two cylinders, that two-cylinder motor is, what is that, 60 cc's more than the three-cylinder motor in the Daihatsu. Yeah, our riding lawnmower has more displacement than our farm truck. So this truck over here, a lot of people joke it, but it's all function and no frills. This truck over here, some function, mostly frills. Electric seats, power windows, thank God it's got power steering, automatic, cruise control, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, touchscreen, all kinds of electric signals. It's got more lights on the dash than I know what they're for. The Daihatsu lets you know when your seatbelt isn't buckled, but it just has a red light. It doesn't have a dinger. It has a signal for when the parking brake is on, and it has a battery light. I think there's a brake light as well, but I haven't seen that come on yet, and I hope I don't. And it has a 4x4 light. That's it. What's that, 5 lights? 6 lights? This is a much more comfortable ride. This rides like a basketball. She blows around on the highway because, well, it weighs 2,200 pounds with no load and me in it. As far as loads, we've had that 5.5 years. I've hauled once a heavy load in the bed. I brought a pallet of concrete home for a project that, well, we never really got around to finishing. A pallet of concrete is about a ton. This, we've had a year. I think I've done 2 or 3 trips to the quarry or the material yard, and I've brought home 1,500 pounds of rock at a time, 3 times. I've hauled more wood around than I like to count, where it's like rounded and the tires are squatting. This, yes, we've hauled a lot of stuff in the bed, but nothing that's really taxed this truck that much. I did put the wood chipper in there when I bought the wood chipper. I have done feed. We put 1,000 pounds of feed in the bed, so we do use it occasionally. But that's literally all of the times I've just mentioned that we've put anything of any major weight in there is the same amount as this, and we've had this for 4 times as long, approximately. So really, the downsides of this are significantly outweighed by the upsides of this. Well, the upsides of the big truck are not quite enough to offset the downsides. The big downsides just being its sheer size and efficiency and effectiveness at things. So realistically, on a homestead this size, we don't need a truck this size. The capabilities of this truck far exceed what we could ever hope to do. I was just putting the camera away and I realized I'm talking about a small homestead. Realistically, even a larger farm could benefit from 1, 2, or 3 of these. Because realistically, even if you bought 3 base models, you're going to be less than the down payment on that. The bed is extremely versatile. The vehicle is extremely versatile and it's extremely efficient. I've gotten up to 28 miles per gallon and this one is heavy. You'd probably get over 30 if you weren't hauling a load all the time, because if you do the math, the stock Kei trucks without the hard dump on them usually run about 1,400 to 1,500 pounds, which is about 350 kilograms less than this one. They're all rated to tow or to haul 350 kilograms, which is about 750, 800 pounds. 800 pounds is 100 gallons of diesel. If you got a diesel transfer tank and put it in the back and you need to run out to the fields to fill up a tractor or something, you could very easily do that and still get well over 20 miles per gallon with something a lot more reliable and affordable. With farming being as cost pinching as possible, I could see having an older truck like this for when you need to haul the combine head, when you need to haul a trailer or a load of hay out. But for your daily runabout, this would make a lot more sense, because the field across the road, we see the farmer when it's getting ready for planting season, he'll be by 2 or 3 times in his pickup truck, checking the condition of the road, checking the condition of the field, bringing stuff over to his tractor, leaving his tractor here, going home, coming back. There's a lot of running around, a lot of miles that he puts on his F-150 that, well, he could probably put on this a lot more efficiently and a lot more effectively. So if you're running a larger farm, leave a comment down below if you think I'm correct that you could have a cost savings by getting this versus this. Overall, this truck is so useful that when we go to the new homestead, if the laws haven't changed where we can have this legally, we'll probably still have this as a runabout on the homestead, but we'll probably build a compact truck, something like a Ford Ranger or an S10 or a Dodge Dakota, just for doing what this truck does. So keep in mind, this is all on this platform. Ford, Chevy, GM, Dodge, Ram, doesn't matter. Daihatsu, Honda, Subaru, Suzuki, doesn't matter. This will hold true across all the brands because these are basically their own class of vehicles. So in conclusion, both of these trucks have different uses. If you have a small homestead, that is going to be a lot more functional than this. That is going to be a lot more affordable than this. You could actually buy one of those, never worry about changing the oil or anything, and probably still go 6 or 7 years buying 6 or 7 of them before you even got to the cost of this. Maybe longer than that now. If you buy a base model, it's only like $7,000 in our area. Of those. Buy a base model of one of these, it's about $70,000. But we will continue to have this. It has been a very useful truck. We will continue to have this because, well, like that, it's paid for. So even if we get rid of the camper, we're still going to keep this because we don't know what the future brings. We want to travel. This is easier to travel in than that, especially with a family. That only holds 2 people. Just saying. We could probably fit 3 car seats in the back. That's not an indication, that's just a fact. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And, well, side note, I was just thinking about I was just talking about, thinking about. There's gonna be some outtakes on this one. So before I get into this vehicle, because we just drove up to Lowe's and Tractor Supply. This shows one of the representations of how the functionality has been depressed on this truck, and that sounds totally bad.